So
back with
then it
different
was
girls.
just you coming home with a weed bag, I guess.
Kind of say on a global scale where addiction kind of starts, it's down to the individual, I would say, from what I've experienced, because addiction doesn't discriminate towards anybody.
Hey, welcome Simon to the Pole and Lou podcast where we mostly talk about pole health and fitness. So, would you like to start and introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Simon. I'm from England. I currently work in a rehab facility doing personal training, and I do group work, meditation practices, and a few other areas around the health within the rehab. And I also do personal development coaching and life coaching online with clients after that. I'm currently living in Thailand, and I don't know, I've been here 3 years now, just over 3 years. I'm not looking to move anywhere else at the minute. So yeah, that's that in a nutshell.
Oh, what was the rehab thing? Is that like physical therapy or is that like
No, that's for drug and alcohol addiction.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's that. Yes, and I was because like I was scrolling through your Instagram before the interview, so I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you a bit about like what is the most common reason for someone becoming a drug addict, or if you could say from a global scale or just from a work scale, because I know you might not necessarily like know the global scales, but maybe just give an insight into like from work in the rehab facility, like what are your most common reasons for somebody, a patient, becoming a drug addict, and if you could say on a global scale, if you're, yeah.
Um, the thing is, when it comes to addiction, me, from what I've seen, is everybody has an addiction to something. Everybody. Now, some addictions are more damaging to your life than others. Some addictions can hide beneath the surface and never really actually come up fully, not having to, seep into any other parts of your life. But there is those addictions, for example, drug and alcohol addiction, especially that they destroy every single area of your life.
Mm.
Now, to say where it would come from and how it would start in somebody is very difficult to say. Um, Reason being is, from my experience, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I was living the same lifestyle as what I thought as everybody else, going out every weekend, drinking, and
Very aggressive.
that progressing, that progressing slowly into then, trying different drugs and um sorry, the cat is just
No, it's okay.
meow.
I like cats.
Yeah. So that just progressed into, doing more drugs and then getting involved in the drug lifestyle and selling drugs, and it just kind of went really fast up. And then there was a time when it became an obsession, and the first thing I would think about in the morning. So there's to kind of say on a global scale where addiction kind of starts, it's down to the individual, I would say, from what I've experienced, because addiction doesn't discriminate towards anybody. It doesn't care what race you are, what gender you are, what job you're in, it doesn't care. So
I mean, if we talk, because like obviously everybody has an addiction to, like you can have an addiction to anything, but if we maybe like just focus on, in this question,
yeah,
one particular question, the drugs and alcohol, I also think it's like access, because, well, like, of course, being human is hard, and we all feel like some kind of discomfort or pain, and some people like might feel like, oh, there's like a situation that they can't get out of, so, or some people just think it's fun to do it because everybody else is doing it. But I do think it's like a big part of it is also external, like like how accessible is the substance? Because if it's
yeah.
unavailable, then obviously you can't become or get addicted to drugs. But yeah,
Mm. Yeah, you must. Yeah, I agree, definitely.
yeah.
If you can't get your hands on something, then the chances of you becoming addicted to it are very slim if you can't get your hands on it. But the way the world is no matter where you are in the world, you can get your hands on pretty much anything if
Yeah,
you.
nowadays. I mean, before
versus
it was a bit more like before the internet, it was like no online shopping, no black markets. But
yeah,
now
that's
it's a
the
bit
thing.
like, well, yeah, no. Um,
Yeah, that's the problem.
but
That's the
anyways,
problem. It's so accessible.
so you can't really pin like you wouldn't say it comes like it's individual like based, you know.
Down to an individual, and it's down to their way of like how they lived, the past traumas from a kid. Have they got addictive personalities? That's something that you see earlier on. It can be many, many, many different things. A lot of people carry on using and become addicted to drugs and alcohol because the substances allow you to escape from the feelings that you're currently feeling when
So
you're.
you would say there is usually like an emotional pain common like I wouldn't say like that's the majority of the population of the drug addicts. Of course some people are just like hanging around and they're like, oh, those people are being idiots. I also YOLO, YOLO, and then they become a drug addict. But then I think also there are some like, but I would think that I would assume that that's the minority, and then the majority would be people who actually suffer from something like that's like emotional, and then that's when they become kind of.
I mean, it comes into many things, emotional, mental, spiritual. There's many things that there'll be a factor to it,
Yeah.
in a person. That's why it's hard to just pick one thing because it'll be many things and it'll be you know, um, a pile up of different things, but it kind of comes down to, are you comfortable in your life? If you're not, when someone finds a way to escape their life through a substance, it's very easy to then get addicted to that substance because once you don't have that high anymore, you're back in reality. And then most addicts don't like that reality. So then they use their drug or whatever of choice to go to escape it again.
Yeah. So you have been a former drug addict also,
Yes.
which I think makes you an excellent person for rehab because I mean, I see this a lot like when there's a person who's trying to help somebody but they don't like or help or like coach somebody in that sense like but they've never gone through, the procedure to
Yes.
actually become the coach. What I mean is like by you in order to become the coach or like say the doctor, it's always best to have experienced what the patient is experiencing because then it's then you have like and recovered from that so you have a better standpoint. Like sometimes it's kind of embarrassing when you go like say for example to the pharmacy or to the doctor or like to somebody who's supposed to be perhaps like telling you advice, giving you advice, but they don't take
Yeah.
the advice themselves because then it's like you're a hypocrite. you know
Yeah, it's hard. So this is the thing. There's a saying, and it goes, and this is more for around like rehab. Broken people help broken people.
Yeah, or broken people who are fixed can help broken people.
Yes, that's it. Because those broken people that have came out of it and done the work and got themselves into a position, where they're able to help someone else when that other person needs help, there's an instant connection because that person has been through addiction. They understand it. You can't really explain or get somebody else who has an experienced addiction to understand it. You can go to as much uni as you want, you can look at as many courses as you want, but you'll never understand what it felt like at that
Mhm.
time to go through an addiction and be completely powerless over it.
Yeah. That's, I think, the whole screw up in the education system. You have teachers who have never done, no, actually, once you get into uni and those kind of levels, like they do require like some experience. But sometimes I'm like, what is this person talking about? Like they don't know what they're talking about. But
Yeah.
anyways, besides the point, what's the most common type of patient you get? Like, if you could give me like, of course, don't actually name somebody that you're treating, but like, if you could give me, a persona or a profile, kind of, just
So
you can just
that's
describe.
the thing. That I'll be honest with you, I wish I could, but because
Oh,
addiction doesn't discriminate, there's no type of person. It goes for all types of people.
so you get like, do you get like really wealthy clients, and do you
You
get
are
like really broke?
extremely wealthy. You get extremely wealthy, you get extremely poor, you get extremely smart, you get doctors, pilots, you get princes from like
I'm
Dubai and Oman and stuff like that. We get all kinds of people.
sorry. This is
Does not
just
discriminate.
okay.
Addiction
No,
does not care. I'm
no,
being serious. It does not care. But the people that come in are everywhere. What's so funny?
no, I'm just laughing because it's just kind of like it's like imagine like you're like a doctor and then or imagine if you are in rehab and then the doctor is there and then you go to the like I don't know the hospital they work at. It's like oh it's you. You're supposed to be
Yeah.
a surgeon. I want another person. I want
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
another.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It goes for everybody. It goes for every. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that
Yeah.
your doctor's an addict unless because for most people, addiction, you'll lose your job, you'll lose all this and that.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone's actively using or drinking, but normally, someone then in recovery, you wouldn't be able to know that they used to be an addict unless they told you.
Yeah.
Unless you saw the way that they lived, because addicts have to live very differently to people who are not addicts. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean the chances are, yeah, you could end up bumping into like, your pilot just before you get on the plane and realize that you were in rehab with him. But you never know. Like you're about to drive my plane. I hope you're not drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, so what because like I was also looking at the demographics, of course, like I kind of Googled like which like are I mean, I was trying to come up with like see if there was some kind of information on the internet, but apparently like it says that men are more likely to be substance abusers. I mean, I mean, I'm not sure if I don't really know why, but I came up with a hypothesis. It's because like there's I guess more pressure for men in well globally to perform in a certain way and I guess gain income.
Uh,
Yeah. Or
so what I would reply to that is everybody's under pressure, men and women, from
yeah,
society ways. However, the way I think that women deal with the pressure and the stresses of life compared to the way men deal with the pressures and stresses of life are different. So I would agree because from working in rehabs and being an addict myself and being in that kind of lifestyle, there is a large number of men compared to women. Now, it's not to say that I wouldn't know if there was more men out there than women out there that are under addiction. But there is definitely more men that come into rehab than there is women. Um, and I don't know what that comes down to, but yeah, I would say that men deal with life very differently. They internalize, they don't express, they don't say what's wrong. From a
yeah,
young age, you're taught, don't cry, don't show your tears, don't get mad, don't get angry, don't do this, don't do this. As a man, it's very different because you have to hold this, society expects you to hold this frame.
yeah.
Now, if that man isn't able to hold that frame, it internalizes, causing someone to get sick when you
Mm.
can't let out what's going on for you. And now, when a man finds a drug and that drug relieves them of that pain, boom.
I also think it might be like biological differences because I know that like okay there are lots of women are always crying like whining bitching and moaning and like whatever but like I guess because that's I guess traditional society allows women to express and maybe
Yeah.
women are just more expressive about their emotions and feelings but I
Yeah.
also do think that like women have more what is this uh pain tolerance like of course if they're not just trying to get attention but if you were to I mean I don't think this should be done but like because women give birth and of course those kind of hormones come in like when you're giving birth that's extremely painful that okay you need to have a I forgot what was the painkiller hormone exocytocin I forgot what it was called in the body but anyways so if you were to say put like tie up a man and a woman in a chair and you would start like just sticking or like not injecting them with needles but like just putting needles one by one into them like I bet more men would faint or like start shedding tears
Yeah.
before the woman
Really?
no
Mm,
I
I
don't
would say it depends on the man and it depends on the woman.
yeah it really but like it would have to be like if this experiment were to be done it would like we would need a massive population of different men and like at least 1 million people from all different races and backgrounds. And then, of course, they would all have to get paid, and we would have to make sure that they
But yeah,
die in this case. And
I'm
they would,
pretty sure you'd get sued if you.
I mean, if it's optional and the terms
Yeah,
and
okay.
conditions, and then people are volunteering, I think it would. I mean, it depends what the where it's done and what the laws are and blah blah blah. But it would have to be a massive population of people from all different races and backgrounds, men and women, like 500,000 women, 500,000 men, and then you would have to just like say this is the experiment. We're going to sit in the chair and we're just going to stick a few needle, like not inject you with anything, but just and
Just
then
increase pain. Just see how much you can take
take a
pain. I'm
timer.
sure loads of people will be up for that.
I mean, I've done like, have you donated blood or something? It's not.
Yeah. I've donated. I think that's a bit different to testing someone's pain tolerance.
I mean, the minute you start
Taking
crying
blood,
or faint,
testing pain.
then
Ah, I don't know.
I think it
I
would
don't
be
know.
an interesting experiment, unless there's other medical ways that it could be found, like in a much faster, less painful way.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So maybe could you talk about how does one like overcome drug addiction and say never become a drug addict in the first place?
I can say how I became, how I um, came out of my addiction. But to say there's one way would be incorrect. There's many ways, but I can explain the way I did because of my experience. I
Okay.
can't really say anything else because that's not what worked for me, you
Yeah.
know? So I'll say from my experience, what worked for me was first I had to realize that I couldn't do it alone.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing. Because I tried to do it alone for a long time and I kept on going backwards in circles and circles. So I first had to accept that I couldn't do it alone. All right. That's when I said yes to go into rehab. Second of all, for me, I had to come out of my environment. My environment had a big part to play of my using. The people I was around, the situations I was getting myself into. Yeah, I had to move out of England. So that's why I came to Thailand, and that's why I initially ended up in Thailand. Third of all is the counseling and the group, the power of the group. Now, I spent 3 months in treatment, and I was doing counseling all the way through. I was doing obviously you're doing groups, so you're with other addicts who are also trying to get clean. So to say that there's one thing that helped me, there's not. There's many things that helped me, but the biggest one of the I'd say also one of the biggest things is the fact that I had had enough. If I hadn't had enough, I would have done 3 or 6 months of treatment and left and picked up weed. If I hadn't had enough of doing drugs and alcohol, doesn't matter how much counseling you do, doesn't matter how much therapy, doesn't matter how much group work. If that person hasn't had enough and they haven't gone far enough down their rock bottom, they will use again.
Mm. The scary thing about like drug addiction and I think substance abuse is that some people never ever get out and they just keep on abusing to the point where the life just falls kind of
They
short.
die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where that's just the end. But ooh, okay. Well, and how do you how did you maybe become a drug addict in the first place, or and how would you say one
I would
avoids
say
becoming a
I
drug?
was always, for me, I was always, so from a kid, I was a swimmer and I used to swim nationally.
Mm,
Um, so my whole childhood was training 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night time from Monday to Friday. And then on the weekends, it would be competition, right? So there's a lot of adrenaline, there's a lot of dopamine, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of everything on the weekend to obviously compete. Um, and then I realized, well, I didn't realize back then, but when I look back now, I see the chain of events because when I stopped swimming at the age of 16, I started working. Now, obviously, working, I started doing an apprenticeship. You're working Monday to Friday, which means I had a lot of time on the weekend. So I'd be doing things that everybody else was doing, following the crowd, going out on Friday night, drinking, go out on Saturday, drinking. And then I started to get used to that lifestyle, work Monday to Friday, out Friday to Sunday, repeat, repeat, repeat. And the snowball just kept on getting bigger and bigger every time I would go out. I would take things that little bit further. I'd get bored of drinking, so I'd want to try something else, or I'd go to a festival and try a pill. And I was experimenting. This is what they say. This is one big thing, right? When I
Mm.
always hear it like I'm just experimenting. That experimentation can cause you to lose your life, but I didn't think about risks back then. I didn't really care. Everything was just wild. Um, and then, yeah, it wasn't until the drugs started getting harder and heavier, and not lasting as long that I started to become more and more addicted to it, more addicted to the chaos of life. I couldn't just sit on my own or just have a night in or just relax or do anything like that.
Wait,
I'd be seeking that, adrenaline.
did you live at home back then, or
Yes, I was in England back then.
did did was the environment of your household like peaceful and nice?
Peaceful. I had the best mom and dad I could ever ask for growing up. We had sheep, we had chickens, we had a dog, we had a beautiful family, a beautiful home. There was a lot of
Did
love.
they know that you were a drug addict?
Not until,
It was too
not
late.
until, yeah, not until it was already too late and I was already smoking crack. That's when, you know, things got out because word started to go round. Because I'd made myself quite known in my hometown from the years of age 16 to 20, 21 years old. I'd made myself very well known. So once I started taking crack, the word got around quick and ended up getting to my family, and then they found out. And then it was very obvious from then with my using because I wouldn't come home for days, I wouldn't change for days, I'd be coming back with you know what I mean, random things and if I ever came back at all.
Did you
What?
come up with random girls?
No, that was before. That was when I was drinking and going to clubs. Every single
Um,
weekend I'd be coming back
so
with
then it
different
was just
girls.
you coming home with a weed bag, I guess.
Yes, it went from that's something I realized as well. So when you say to me like when did my addiction start, it started with sex
Okay.
and clubbing. It started with women, which I didn't realize back then because I would tell
Yeah.
myself, oh, I'm a guy, I've got full of testosterone, this and that. But the truth was, when I look back now, was I was doing it in a very addictive way. And
Yeah.
then when I stopped taking drugs, so when I went into rehab and I stopped taking drugs, the addictions kind of like unraveled themselves, if you know what I mean. So then I
Mhm.
stopped taking drugs and then I fell back into like relationships and sex addiction.
Yeah, because I feel like there are some people who are more like prone to I I would say prone to addiction, like addictive personality types. Like I think it's just that in the beginning it might be hard as a child to, because like I feel like addictive personality types might also, be really competent and good at like certain things. It's just where you channel it. Because if you
Yeah.
get addicted to something that like ruins your life, it's gonna ruin your life. But then if you can channel it into something like productive or something that helps society, which I think you're doing right now, something that's contributes, and makes other people's lives better, then I think that's the plus side
Yeah.
of the equation, which I think is really kind of bad because like of course when you're young you're hijacked with hormones and you're like, I don't give a shit, YOLO. but then
Yeah,
but
basically.
it's like I guess a process. But yeah.
Hmm.
So you would say I think actually the only way one can never get addicted to drugs is if they literally don't experience life or live in an isolated area. I mean, not even you can't live in the middle of the jungle because that's where the weed grows. So never mind.
Well, I think, put it this way, if I grew up in a jungle and I was the same way that I was now, I would probably still find something. If I found something that allowed me to release dopamine,
Yeah,
I would still be able to get addicted to it.
yeah,
Now, whether it be running, whether it be hunting, whether it be climbing trees, whatever, if it made me feel good and I kept on doing more and more of it, eventually I would use it as an escape from my life. So I think even me in the jungle, like I
yeah. It doesn't
say, it
matter where we put you,
doesn't
you'll
matter
survive.
where. Doesn't matter. Like I've done geographicals. I've tried to move different places and come out of my environment and try run away from my addiction, but the addiction's in your head and you can't run away from your head. Doesn't matter where you move to, doesn't matter where in the world you think about restarting your life, you move everywhere with your head. And if you
Okay.
don't fix that and if you don't sort that out, it doesn't matter how many houses you have, how many cars, how many whatever, it's not going to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, I also do think that, specifically talking about substance abuse, because that's the one that is like on the minus side of the equation. So, addictive personality types, if you can find something that gives you dopamine and contributes to society and makes you elevates your life and elevates other people's lives, then of course I think use that use that addictive personality type or dopamine rush. Or some people have more like different, it also goes down to genetics. Like some people have certain things in their body which make them more prone to certain things. But the minus side is, of course, then when you start doing substance abuse, because that spirals quickly downhill.
Yeah, that's it.
um, yeah, so you have the fitness going on as well. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, fitness for me, fitness went in hand to hand with my recovery. It helps me, a lot in many different areas. For example, like self-respect, self-care, self-love, just appreciating myself again. Because for a long time when I'd done drugs, I just hated myself a lot. I couldn't look in the mirror. I couldn't talk nicely or positively to myself. So having fitness along the side of my recovery and kind of watching myself improve, not just physically, but like mentally. Um, it just I don't think I would be where I am today if I didn't put the time into fitness as well, which is why now I specialize in recovery and fitness.
Oh, did you have to
I,
like
I
go through like a training or get a certificate in order to become like a rehab?
Not for the place that I'm working at, not for the
Yeah.
place that I'm working at, because I'd done a lot of, I was in treatment for a long time, and I didn't have the money to be able to pay for a certificate. So I ended up doing all the research that I needed to and still continuing for myself and
Okay.
teaching myself, self-learning basically.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because I realized, eventually one day I will need a certificate if I'm going to work for certain places, which is what I'm working towards. But I ended up getting enough knowledge to be able to
Mm.
get myself in work for
Have
somewhere else.
have you like what is the percent rate of like say your of course like I don't expect that drug addiction is quite challenging, but say you maybe out of like if you get 10 people, like what percentage of them are have you like recovered as patients?
So
Uh,
there's a number, there's a statistic, right? And it's a very scary statistic in a way. More than 70% of the people that go into rehab end up relapsing within the first year.
so they become drug addicts again.
They go back to using whatever it was that they were in for, yeah, back to the drugs, back to the alcohol, whatever it was. 70%, over 70%. So when you're working in places like this, the goal isn't to make somebody get recovery because, like I said before, you don't know if somebody's had enough yet. They might have been through enough and they've ended up in rehab. But many people, when they come into rehab and then they start eating, they start looking good again, they start feeling good again, they think that it's okay to go and use again, that they can handle it. A lot of people think that way. Now, there are people that will be honest with you about it, and those are the people that you can help, the people that are honest, and there'll be people that will do all the right things so that they can cruise by and not be honest that they want to use when they leave, which causes many people to die because they weren't honest.
Can you say okay, yeah, so two kind of questions in one. So
Well,
basically just you personally, like what would you say is the percentage rate of you like recovering patients? And
me,
and the number two question is that do you think like it also depends on the patient's own motivation. Like if they're not lying, that is, obviously some people are really good liars. But
Okay. So
if they come to you and they're like, I actually like want to end this, whereas if they look like they're uninterested, probably your parents paid for you and put you here, or that they, like how
yeah,
would
so
yeah.
how I'd reply to that, well, to answer all three questions is it depends on if they've and how bad they want it. Because if someone doesn't want it bad enough, they're not going to put the time in, they're not going to put the effort, they're not going to put the energy, and they're going to waste their own time. So it doesn't matter how much I might want it for somebody. If they don't want it for themselves, it's pointless.
Mm.
They have to have had enough of their using, of their rock bottom. They have to have got to the point where it's enough where they are willing to take on advice from somebody else.
So would you say patients who come in who are actually motivated have you, or you can see that they're
Higher success, yeah, higher success rate. It's not the fact that they're more motivated. It's the fact it's more have they had enough? Motivated and having enough are two different things. Because I've seen people that are highly motivated, doing all the things that they're supposed to do, and then leave treatment and relapse.
oh
Because they quickly forgot who they were and how bad it got. So it's not really even to do with motivation. It's more, have you had enough? If you haven't had enough, you will continue in that lifestyle. If you don't know how to deal with um, your life, a life in recovery, if you haven't accepted that you're an addict, because many people find it hard to accept that they're an addict. Many people.
yeah.
Because there's so many addictions. Obviously, we're talking about drugs and alcohol in a minute, but there's so many things. Even drug and alcohol addicts, I
Yeah.
find it very hard to accept that they're even an addict, and
Yeah.
they're homeless, they're on the streets, they're stealing, and they still can't accept that they're an addict. You
Okay,
know?
we're gonna have to move a bit faster because I only have like
Yeah,
7 minutes left on this. Is would you say marijuana is a healthier alternative than smoke? Of course, they're all bad, but if you had to pick one, like, would you say being a addict is better or healthier than being a cigarette or alcohol addict?
No, because
Oh,
it depends on the marijuana addict.
uh, oh
Now,
yeah,
normally with marijuana addiction, it still affects your life. It affects your relationships, your work. It affects everything around you.
yeah,
Now, it might not do it as hardcore as a crack addict or an alcoholic. It might not do it in such a hardcore way, but it will still affect your life.
yeah. Not in a positive
So
way.
to say that it's better, no, because for me, I mean, I used to love weed. Weed was amazing for me. I'd never had any problems with weed the times I smoked weed. And when I got clean, the biggest thing that was in my head was weed,
Oh,
right?
sorry,
But yes,
I'm swearing.
however, I managed to be fortunate enough to learn that if I started smoking weed, and this is why I don't drink as well. Like my addiction was crack and heroin and monkey dust. But
Monkey
if
dust?
I started to drink, yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. If
Mm.
I started to drink or if I smoked weed, it would only be a matter of time before I was back on crack again.
Okay. And next question. I'm moving. I only have this
Go
one.
on, go on. Yeah, I get it. Go on.
Yeah. Do some drugs elevate your health? Like I've heard, of course, like some magic mushrooms, and of course, like there are substances that are used in the medical industry, but
Yeah.
those have to be like really precise and prescribed. Like,
Yes, that's well, you said it. You said it there. They have to be prescribed and controlled in a way that
yeah.
doesn't cause someone to become addicted.
Which leads me to my last question. I mean, I'm not going to blame the whole entire medical industry. I do think that there are some doctors out there who are actually trying to do a good job. Mistakes happen, you know. Sometimes we are trying to create new technologies and then there's a mistake and then you have an opioid crisis. But
Yeah.
do you also I mean, I'm that's why I'm like always a bit skeptical. It depends also on the location where you live because there are some areas that are run fully on capitalistic values and there are some play I think capitalism is great, don't get me wrong, but I also think that when it comes to doing your job, I do think that competence and prescribing correct amounts is a reason. But do you think the medical industry is also partly to blame for the amount.
I know many people that came out of hospital with an opioid addiction or, ketamine addiction or whatever. I've seen many cases like that because
Okay.
the person would get addicted to that feeling of being numb. Say after a traumatic injury or something like that, they get used to that feeling.
No, but it's also, mind-boggling about like how you can well also in Europe or in some countries where you just go to the pharmacy, you go over the pain like counter and it's like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, buy painkillers, buy pain, like you don't need a
Yeah.
prescription. It's like in some countries it's more strict. It's like they require a prescription for certain opioid painkiller drugs, which is surprising because it's like if some person who's really just suffer who needs to go to a different like maybe a therapist or needs to sort their life out is just going and buying painkillers, they could easily just become a drug addict.
Exactly. We have to think when it comes to pharmaceutical companies, they're a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry.
Oh, that's a no, yeah, well, never mind.
So when it comes to that, it's about money. It's not about making someone feel better or actually cured. It's about how can we make more money? How can we keep this person coming back?
Not always the case. I mean, I do
Not
think there's
always, but from what I see, because there's I've seen natural ways to cure headaches without paracetamol or ibuprofen. I'm not saying they're bad, but it's there's a lot that's been hidden and kept away that is natural that would cure people and instead of making money from pills, which people get addicted to. And once someone's addicted to that pills, that's a lot of money for a pharmaceutical company. Keeps the business going.
that's kind of scary, but I think
But
it's good. It's good that you really shared this. But well, we have like 1 minute, and then I'm gonna like close this.
no worries.
I really thank you for being on the Poll with Lulu podcast.
It's
And
okay. It's a pleasure to be here.
if you have anything else that you really quickly want to add that you might have not said here.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think I've said enough. Is there anything else last minute that you wanted to ask?
No, no, except that I'm really happy that you got on this podcast and we did it and
Yeah,
got it
finally.
done. Yeah. But
Finally.
let's see. Maybe we'll bump into each other if I come to Thailand.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, definitely. If you come down and let me know, that'd be nice.
well, thanks for being on the Poll with Lulu podcast, Simon. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Bye.
thank